Oh, hey, welcome back to another reading of JafferMTG. If you last remember our tale, Jaffer and Hullbreaker, well, they just became friends over the best Gouda cheese. And we have, of course, in our background, our favorite picture, forever symbolizing their friendship. And of course, it wouldn't be a great Friday without a reading of the next chapter of JafferMTG. Jaffer woke up the next morning, romanticizing about the previous day. The wonder of sharing that delicious Gouda cheese. He couldn't believe how magical it was. He leapt out of bed and grabbed his favorite blue robe, royal blue cascading all around, as blue as the Hullbreaker Kraken himself. Truly, it was a great morning. Jaffer couldn't help but wait for his friend to come over today. It was going to be a magical day. Hullbreaker Horror was off as well as him, and he knew how much of a break Breaker needed. Hullbreaker had just started a new job at the Krusty Krab, which had just opened up its most remote location ever, in the seas of Innistrad of all places. Business has been busy. Customers occasionally getting bounced, but that was Hullbreaker Horror's job. Hullbreaker Horror also woke up in amazement and quickly leapt out of the sea, rushed over to Jaffer's, planeswalking across the multiverse, and knocked on his front door. It was his day with Jaffe Cakes, and he was excited. Their plan was for yard sculpting, both of their favorite pastimes. They would take various broken pieces of boat that Hullbreaker Horror had crashed and broken and torn apart, bounce spells that had been returned to hand, and of course the tears of their opponents that they had torn asunder from defeating them. It was to be a magical day. Of course, what is any day without a long tale though? It continued on, hard work and labor, their eyes consistently beating, tentacle and hand as one, as the yard took shape. And after a long day of what could only be called magical bliss, and maybe a little bounce, too, a little thump thump, hunger struck. When laboring, one needs consistent food. Jaffe Cakes the Hullbreacher said, "Breachy boo, what about seafood?" Hullbreaker Horror looked back at his Jaffe Cakes. He tore down and he said, "That's okay. I have my magical coupon book. I've been clipping for days just for an occasion where I could offer us a delicious meal at a low premium price." Hullbreacher looked reminiscingly at his coupon book. His coupon book was a hand-me-down from his father, Tidespout Tyrant. Oftentimes his father would go on to say, "Remember, while you bounce, remember to save. That is the key to a good financial stability in life, and effective money value and cost." After a few hours of shopping, Hullbreacher and Jaffe Cakes returned to Jaffer's home. They had a smorgasbord of food, whatever they wished they had, and of course the fated Gouda. It was a Gouda time, as Jaffe Cakes often reminds us to this day through his tales. Truly, it's a lovely tale. After finishing dinner, and of course the intense amount of emotion that would be felt from a delicious cost-saving meal, they looked each other intensely in the eyes. Jaffer looked at Hullbreacher, smacking his lips as Hullbreacher brought his tentacles to his face to sigh. And an idea popped into head. Why would the day have to end here? Why not continue on and party? They decided on watching 50s beach horror movies, and somehow ended up butt dialing Civilian, but I think that's a story for another day. Movie after movie, attack after attack, they laughed, they cried, they enjoyed the emotion rampant. You could see it in their eyes. This was the truest of friendship, an enjoyment meant to be. And so, the merriment of the day would come to a close. As with all things, it does. They tried, they worked to prolong as best they could, but the sun was beginning to set. And so they would set out for their final activity, lifting at the gym. Hullbreaker Horror didn't become the monstrosity it was today just by simply sitting around and swimming. No, Hullbreaker Horror became the monstrosity it is by lifting and bouncing whatever it could, and Jaffer knew if he went to the gym and lifted like Hullbreaker Horror did his Breaker Boo, he too would be fit just the same with a high mana value. And so they lifted, they bounced, they spotted for each other. Truly, I don't think you could compare it to any other. What would be a more iconic duo than Breachy Boo and his Jaffe Cakes? No, truly it was magical. But alas, after a workout, sweat and tears, a little blood and some crying, understanding, the day does come to an end. And so, Jaffe Cakes and Breaker Boo walked off from the gym into the closing of the sun, their castanets in hand, happily jamming away. What a magical tale. Friends, I hope you enjoyed the next chapter of Hullbreaker and Jaffer. Days off. I will be back next time with the next chapter. Enjoy.